Welcome back to the Roundtable. I'm Ostrich Vox, and Evil Morty continues to be the biggest mystery in Rick and Morty. Evil Morty is one of the biggest enigmas in modern-day animation. In an era where most animation mysteries have been solved, Evil Morty persists, staying ahead of the curve with Rick and Morty's infinite hiatuses. Although hopefully with a 70-episode order and Season 5 already in the writing stages, we will see the next season pretty soon after Season 4. But that's besides the point. When you lay out all the plot lines of Rick and Morty, a lot of them at one point or another have intersected, all except for what I'm going to call the Rick and Morty Clone Saga. A can of worms that opened in the ABCs of Beth that continued until the Rick, Troy, and Morty date. That may have wrapped up in that episode, but really could only just be the beginning. Now, I already speculated that Beth could attempt to clone Jerry in this upcoming season with a shot of a mutated screaming head in the trailer greatly resembling the lovable dumbass. But this got me thinking. Mentions of clones have existed way before Clone Beth, and now I'm starting to believe it's for a purpose. One that greatly ties into the bigger picture. So today, I want to explore the question, could Evil Morty be a clone? Well, let's dive in. As we all know, Evil Morty's origins are unknown, but the most popular and obvious theory is that Evil Morty has a connection with our Rick, and that more likely than not, he's Rick's original Morty, and that Rick's sudden introduction into our Morty's life, coming back into the family after an unspecified amount of years, was actually Rick escaping his home dimension. That he's not the proper Rick of C-137 prior to it getting Cronenberged. But something seriously bad must have happened for Evil Morty to devise such a master plan, climbing all the way up to the Citadel, beyond Rick just abandoning his home dimension or abandoning Morty on the brink of death, as that's something our Rick does anyways to our Morty. I believe with this theory, there's a pretty big piece missing. And while this may or may not be the answer, just stick with me here. A consistent trope in Rick and Morty are clones, and more so, the troubles that clones can create. Mr. Meeseeks, Clone Beth, the potential clone Jerry, the list goes on. Now clearly Rick and Morty wants to craft a long-form narrative, and with Season 3, it was anchored on Beth and Jerry's divorce, which may seem like it initially had no payoff, but it did bring us the mystery of Clone Beth. If the Beth hanging out with the Smith family right now is the real deal, or just a copy while the real Beth is out there traversing the galaxy. Rick and Morty, in its 3 seasons, has managed to bring back plot threads when we least expect them, feeding into an overarching narrative. In fact, every ongoing storyline is interwoven. Both the Citadel of Ricks and the Galactic Federation in Season 1 seem like quirky parodies of sci-fi media, which they were, but by the end of Season 2 and going into Season 3, they evolved into a semi-serialized epic that we dive into ever so often. Beth and Jerry's divorce was actually a result of the Galactic Federation and Citadel of Ricks storylines becoming interwoven, so this domino effect leading into the clone storyline seems intentional. And while it seems unrelated at first, we should consider that the Citadel of Rick story came back full circle to Evil Morty. The Rick-Lantis mix-up, or Tales from the Citadel, may have seemed like an out-of-place episode in this season. Oh yeah, let's just drop everything to catch up with this unrelated plot thread. Like yeah, sure, we're dying to see Evil Morty, and yes, that's one of the best episodes of the entire series, but why place it right there as some sort of mid-season finale if we didn't see immediate payoff? Well, we do know that originally, the team wanted Season 3 to be 13 or 14 episodes as opposed to just 10. So with this proposed extended length, the Rick-Lantis mix-up could have actually set up the original Season 3 finale that has now been moved to a Season 4 episode. In fact, it could even be the mid-season finale of this upcoming run of episodes. For the 5th episode we're going to get this December, Rattlestar Rick-Lactica will continue that Evil Morty plot thread in the way they originally intended Season 3 to end. But I'm getting a bit off track. Back to the cloning. Rick was pretty quick to offer Beth the clone card, as if he's done this before the whole Tommy fiasco, mentioning that the clone would have zero chance of going Blade Runner, which not only is referencing a clone-centric film, but one where the identity of the lead character is heavily debated, if Rick Deckard himself is a replicant. Also, I haven't seen the latest Blade Runner, so please, no spoilers if that's elaborated on. Considering the following episode plants the seeds of doubt of this being our actual Beth, this line seems very intentional. Yeah, there's no chance of this going Blade Runner, except it totally will. It's still pretty odd that as soon as Beth begins questioning herself, Rick not only seems immediately paranoid, but tracks down her and the family's whereabouts to assumably kill Beth, but claims he he was going after Jerry. But no matter how many times I rewatch this episode, I can't see anything but Rick trying to dance around the fact that he did clone his daughter. But why jump to the extreme conclusion of murder? Well, maybe Rick knows what an aware and capable clone can do. And one of the things Rick tells Beth to calm her down is that she's smart, which could imply that clones have higher intelligence than their original counterpart. Although the episode prior did establish that the Beth we know is already pretty smart. And something like that coming from Rick is a genuine compliment. Rick never gave Beth a direct answer on if she was a clone or not as well, as if he's afraid of what she'd do with that information. So by just simply assuring her on the phone that, well, she's smart, Rick could technically not be lying, but he could also be telling a little white lie, that it really means, Beth, you're smart, you're a clone. Clones can be dangerously smart. Now, it's assumed that Evil Morty was Rick's original Morty, that something terrible happened to Rick's original Morty to turn him the way he is now. But what if Evil Morty isn't a transformed Morty, but a replacement for what happened to the original Morty? What if whatever happened to Rick's original Morty goes beyond just Morty, but the entire Smith family? Because oddly enough, aside from Evil Morty and Evil Rick, we've actually seen evil clones of the Smith family before, all the way back in the beginning of Me, Seeks, and Destroy. While this was clearly meant to be a gag, it's interesting that the opening scene for this episode features Rick and Morty going up against, in Rick's own words,
"They're clones from an alternate reality possessed by demonic alien spirits from another dimension's future."
And in particular, these were clones of exclusively Beth, Jerry, and Summer. No Rick and Morty in sight. This was only episode 5 of the series, people. Considering alternate realities or dimensions become a huge part of Rick and Morty a few episodes after, this in hindsight feels like a small nugget of world building that would be more than just a simple gag in the future. Why are they only going up against the other members of the Smith family? Why aren't there any clones of Rick and Morty here? I'm bringing this up because laying everything out on the table, isn't it convenient that the only 2 missing evil clones of the Smith family in the scene aren't simply just Rick and Morty, but that we meet an evil Rick and Morty before the end of the season? Pair these clones with these evil counterparts, and suddenly some dots could begin to connect. We don't know why our Rick and Morty was in a different dimension facing off against these clones. It was inferred it was to obtain the demonic spirits possessing them in the first place, as Rick elaborates, but what if that was just a sweet bonus? What if the circumstances around this adventure feeds into something bigger? So let's say the entire Smith family of Rick's original dimension was cloned, including Rick himself. Well, this of course leads to ask not just why, but for who? Who benefits from an entire family being replicated if they're not a part of that family in the first place? Well, there is a missing piece of Rick and Morty that's only been teased up to this point, and that's one particular character who could be very important, which is why they haven't really been elaborated on in the first place. I'm of course referring to the woman who would be Rick's wife, Beth's mother, and Morty's grandma. Who is she? Why is her only appearance in a fake backstory that Rick made up? Why does she seemingly not exist in any of the alternate realities? Perhaps the reality Evil Morty stemmed from is the only one where she's still alive, or at least was a part of the Smith family. Maybe somehow Rick lost their entire family and cloned them in their place. But feeling immense guilt he'd rather not feel, knowing that his ex-wife would be living a lie, Rick decides to empty out his conscience by cloning himself, a la Evil Rick, and fleeing dimensions, leaving his true ex-wife with a family of clones. Or maybe Rick did live with the cloned family for a while, but then as his Morty began to raise awareness, Rick realized the dangerous potential of this Morty. Rick, unsure of where this equation went wrong, decides that the proper remedy would be cloning himself, sticking that clone in his home dimension and fleeing as far away as possible. But Evil Morty never ceased awareness. And if clones are naturally of higher intelligence than the run-of-the-mill human beings, it makes sense Evil Morty would use the tools at his disposal to start formulating a plan. But maybe this plan isn't devised alone, as again, we know nothing about Rick's ex-wife. Perhaps she has a role in all this. And that Evil Morty is just a result of a much bigger, more vengeful scheme targeted at Rick. One that requires Evil Morty to take over the Citadel to carry out a sinister motive that will be explored in this upcoming season. But as always, these are just my thoughts, and I want to hear yours. What do you think? What do you believe Evil Morty truly is? Come on, there's no wrong answers, because every answer could be wrong. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, or tweet your thoughts at RoundtableVids, and for more of my own thoughts, you can find me at OstricVox. We're also on Instagram. Help Roundtable grow by either becoming a member of this channel, or supporting us over at Patreon. Link in the description. If you enjoyed this video, please throw it a like, and subscribe to the Roundtable for more great cartoon content. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have an awesome day. OstricVox, signing out.